Hi, this is Judith. Today we are going to be making what I call Aunty Ingrid soup. I call it that because she gave me the recipe. She called it cheese soup. And gosh, this garlic is all tiny pieces. I'm looking at the recipe and I really don't follow the recipe. It's kind of, over the years, it's kind of, well, it's mutated, shall we say. So let me tell you what I am using today. I am using, it says 4 leeks in the recipe. This is 2 large leeks cut up. Leeks you have to be careful with because they're very dirty vegetables. So you have to make sure you don't get any of the mud in, but these are nicely chopped already. Found on sale at Kroger's for 99 cents for these big 2-pound boxes, mushrooms. So we're actually putting 4 pounds of mushrooms in. That is not, it calls for 1 kilo, which is like 2. So yeah, I'm not following the recipe at all. I'm going to put some garlic in because I don't buy the garlic and herb cream cheese that Aunty Ingrid used because it's expensive. I just use regular cream cheese. So I put my own garlic and herbs in. I've got here the onions that I'm going to chop. She calls for 4 onions. It looks like I'm using 6. This is my big pot that everything's going to go in. And I just defrosted some ground beef. It's about 1.5 pounds there. So this is my niece Charlotte. This is a cameo appearance. She is using one of my favorite tools. Just keep putting it in, darling. And this is the Pampered Chef garlic crusher. And I will not normally spend money on tools in excess of what I have to, but I absolutely love this. Keep putting them in, sweetheart. And in theory, with this garlic crusher, you don't even actually have to remove the skins first, but I do. Keep going. Doing a good job. I like to use fresh garlic. There is absolutely nothing wrong with using jarred garlic if you don't have the time or if you don't have it in the kitchen. Most of the time when I cook, now push that all the way through and we're going to scrape it off. Good job. Charlotte, say hello.
Hello.
Huh? Okay, this is step 1 in the actual cooking, and this is some beef I've defrosted. And let me get the right ring. I'm going to put it on a relatively high heat. And I'm going to use, I'm just throwing that away. I'm going to use my other favourite Pampered Chef tool. But apparently you can also buy these at the Dollar General now. And this is called like a smasher thing. I don't know what it's called. Meat smasher. But it's really good when you're working with ground beef because it helps you break it up so you don't end up with big lumps of cooked meat, so it cooks nicely. While this is simmering, I'm going to go ahead and chop the onions, which are here. Okay, so I'm going to chop the onions face down so you don't fry, and then they should all magically be chopped. There, all done. I don't know if you can look down into the beef. It's almost cooked. You want to cook it till all the pink has gone. And then as soon as that's done, I'm going to add the salt. I'm going to start adding salt and pepper now. You want to add quite a bit because the broth that we're using basically is water, and the vegetables will season the liquid in the pot. And we're going to use some salt. And I'm adding a good amount of salt because nothing in this soup has salt added to it. 1/2 litre or 2 cups going in, and I'm going to do another 1/2 litre or 2 cups. So 4 cups, 1 litre, your choice. One more. So I've actually used 1.5 litres of water. The next step is to cook and add the onions, mushrooms, leeks and garlic. And we're going to use a combination of butter and olive oil. The reason being is that butter will burn at too high a temperature. but we want the flavor of the butter in with the olive oil. And this looks like a lot, but you've got to remember I have a lot of mushrooms to cook. Okay, and this is the mushrooms. We're going to do them in batches. We're not going to do them all together. So it'll probably be about 3 batches here. Mushrooms cook down a lot because they've got a lot of water in them. But the key here is we don't want them to taste like raw mushrooms. We want them to taste like mushrooms that have been sauteed in butter. Oil, a little bit more butter, and the next load of mushrooms are going in. Lid back on my simmering pan, and in go the next load of mushrooms. So these mushrooms look about ready now, and they smell delicious. And what I'm going to do is use a slotted spoon. I don't want to put any extra fat unnecessarily into here, so I'm just going to put them in with a slotted spoon. But these are now cooked and they taste beautifully of butter and olive oil. So these mushrooms are about done, and unlike last time where I used a slotted spoon, you'll see a lot of the liquid here is liquid that's come out of the mushrooms. It's not oil, it's not butter. So I'm going to put all of that in. I would refer to that as mushroom liquor, which I don't know if that's what they call it here, but it's going to add to the flavor of the soup overall. And you can see, I mean, honestly, these mushrooms cooked down so far. And I did buy more than the recipe called for, but they were on sale. This lid has got very hot because it's enamel. You can see I'm just dumping in the pot. Okay, and I'm going to put this back on here. See in here. Oh, I did add a little Italian seasoning and just a few crushed red pepper flakes. And when I say a few, I mean just like maybe half a teaspoon. The next thing on the agenda is the leeks. Where did I put the butter? I am losing my mind. Here it is. Oh, no, I lost my mind. Correction. Okay, so I'm going to put a nice dollop of butter in there. Leeks and butter have a... they really go well together, put it that way. We're going to turn this down just a tad. We don't want to burn the leeks. We want them to nicely caramelize. Thank you to Jonathan, who cut my leeks for me. He did a beautiful job. Leek is the national, I believe, flower of Wales. The leek and the daffodil. So leeks, I always end up having to go to the organic section of Kroger's to buy, but I have seen them at Walmart as well at a pretty decent price too. These were very nice leeks. They had really nice long white stems. When you get to the green on the leek, you really have to peel them back and wash them thoroughly. Otherwise you'll end up with grit, and nobody wants grit in their soup. So I'll show you these when they're done. These leeks are just about done. And here is the garlic that Charlotte crushed for me earlier. I'm going to put it in. Garlic really doesn't take very long at all to cook. And one of the things you want is cooked garlic, which has a nice sweet flavour. Burnt garlic has a very bad flavour. So we don't want to burn the garlic. Can you smell that, Lillian? Oh my gosh, doesn't it smell good, that garlic? Yeah. Wow, such a strong flavour. And I'm going to mix that in, and these are now ready to transfer. And again, I'm going to transfer the whole thing. And as you saw, I really didn't cook that garlic for hardly any time at all. You do not want burnt garlic. That will not enhance the flavour of anything. I literally just had a couple of minutes in the pan before it went into the pot. And here you can see so far we have leeks, mushrooms, garlic, beef and water. Looking good. About to get the onions done. Here are the onions. I'm sure you're all aware of this, but onions are one of those vegetables that when you cook them till they're translucent, they release natural sugars. So that's what we're going for. We want that lovely sweet flavor from the vegetable. And again, here I'm mixing the olive oil and the butter. So we get the flavor of the butter, we get the temperature of the oil. And I only have this burner set on like halfway, so it's not on high. Okay, so you can see here that the onions are about halfway done. We're looking for them to be translucent, which means that you can see through them, and they're not quite there yet. What we don't want to do is brown the onions. We don't want browned onions. So they're still on about half heat and they're cooking nicely. If you look over here, you'll see I've got the cream cheese out, and I've also added in about half a pint of heavy cream. And I'm going to try and mix this together. The recipe Aunty Ingrid uses calls for the garlic and herb boursin, which is softer and does go in better, but it's also a lot more expensive. So I use the cream cheese, and this normally works really well. Added in garlic and herbs to my soup because the recipe actually calls for a cream cheese that has garlic and herb in it. So I'm using plain cream cheese because it's the cheaper version, and I'm kind of mixing it with trying to mix it with my heavy cream a bit to see if I can get some of the lumps out of it. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, eventually it will all melt in the soup pot. And these onions are not quite yet done. I'll come back when they're done. So these are on the verge of browning. We don't want them to brown, so they're actually done right now. But if you look at some of these pieces, when I talk about translucency here, you can see right through it. So that was the goal we were aiming for. The onions are releasing their sugars. The browning is when the sugar starts to burn, but it's only a very light brown, so we're okay. And I'm going to put all of these into here and turn off that ring. Thank you, Lillian. It's always good to have an extra pair of hands in the kitchen, you know that? And I'm done with that saucepan. So now we have this pan, which has all of our ingredients apart from the cream ingredients. I think I'm gonna, you see how thick it is? I mean, it is, I put 1.5 liters of water in here, and it's like a stew. I'm going to taste the liquor to make sure it doesn't need more seasoning before I add the cream. That's really nice. It's really nice. I don't think it needs anything else. So when you add the cream, you don't want it to be boiling. So I'm going to leave the lid off for a minute because, of course, when you have the lid on a pan, it keeps the heat in and it boils. Here's my mixture of 3 packages of cream cheese and half a pint, maybe a little bit more of heavy cream. And like I said, if you can afford the boursin, the cream cheese and herbs, you would probably put 4 of those and 1 package of cream cheese in. And this is going to have some lumps in it, but don't worry, they will melt. The cream cheese will melt. It's in hot liquid. So, and I guess this is what makes it a creamy soup. I'm going to turn it all the way down to low. And it's basically, as soon as that cream cheese is melted, it's ready to eat. Aunty Ingrid, we love your recipe. We've mutilated the recipe, but We use it all the time. Thank you. That doesn't look like enough. Thing on the agenda is the mushrooms. The mushrooms. Just did the mushrooms. Tell me when. Now? Get everybody in there. You're a piece of mushroom. I'm going to eat you. Yeah. Ow, sugar, that's hot. But as soon as this has cooled down just a little bit, wow, that tastes really nice. Lillian, it tastes good.